everyone, it's Nina from Kits Knits, and today's tutorial is going to be for the Great Granny Square blanket. Now this one's pretty big, so it's kind of hard for me to show you the whole thing, but she's so cute. It's just making these really easy, simple, giant granny squares, which consist of 2 rounds of the color and then a join-as-you-go border round, which makes this perfect because you don't have to sew anything. All you have to do is weave in your ends. That's the only extent of sewing. And then we have this really cute shell border here. I'm gonna have to try to insert a picture here of like the full size of the blanket, but let's just get into all the specs of the pattern and we'll get right into making it. A look at the notes section here. The granny squares consist of 2 rounds. So here's our 2 rounds, 1, 2. The background color joining each square is crocheted using the join as you go method. We're going to crochet all of our granny squares first, so just these 2 rounds, and then we're going to begin joining once we have all of the squares stated in the pattern. There's just some notes here about your chain stitches, if they count as a stitch or not. And this pattern is written for one size. You can adjust the size of this blanket by adding more or less squares, but changing the length and width will affect the pattern of the border as it requires a specific stitch count. So if you're making a blanket that is longer or wider than the pattern outlines, you have to adjust the first round of your border to consist of stitches that go in multiples of 4. So there would be a little bit of math involved. You can do it, it's not impossible. But if you want to just mindlessly follow my pattern, you'll just get the same size blanket as mine, which is 58 inches by 58 inches wide and long. So it kind of makes like a square shape, which I thought would be horrible, but at this size, it's not so bad. Mine's just intended to be a throw in my living room around Christmas time because of the Christmas colors that I chose. All that you need is an 8mm hook, a darning needle with a large eye, and scissors. This pattern I am using Woolies Thick and Quick. You probably could use some blanket yarn. I have not tried that myself. I just like how it looks using this. You can use different leftover balls of it. If you have that, it's perfect for just getting your 2 rounds out of there and make a little scrap yarn version, or you can purchase the yarn that is listed in here in the pattern. So I used for each square of the colors in the pattern that I did, I needed about 3 skeins per color that I did, making the amount of squares that I made, and I made 81 squares total. If you're doing more or less squares, that's obviously going to change how much yardage you need. And then when following this pattern, I used about 9 skeins of the border color to join every single square and do my shell border. So that's just like a quick overview of the notes and everything you need. Some abbreviations, this one's just very basic. Chain stitches, single crochet, double crochet, slip stitch, skip the next stitch, chain spaces, finishing off, and then how to repeat and how many stitches are left at the end of each row. I have included a layout page, which I think would be very helpful if you want to plan out your squares. So this is the blanket that I made. I did red and pink squares, and then I did green and a light green square, and I kind of alternated those to make this little kind of checkerboard style. So I've listed all the information in the pattern. If you want, you can list your colors all here, the number of squares that you would need per each color, and that's going to kind of help you keep track when you're working through the pattern yourself instead of having to keep going back and like count and whatnot. You could color in any kind of layout. You obviously don't have to do these 3x3 square sections that I did. So that's all there for you to color and figure out and plan your own layout if you want to do it that way. Okay, so let's get right into making our first granny square.
Actually, before we get into it, I'm just going to leave this here. You can screenshot this. You can plan your blanket. You need 81 squares, so you can color this in and you can plan whatever colors you want.
For this tutorial, I'm using Woolies Thick and Quick by Lion Brand Yarn. I bought this at Michael's. You can probably get it at any craft store or lionbrand.com. This is a super bulky weight 6 yarn, and for this pattern, I'm using an 8mm crochet hook, and you need to weave in your ends as you go. No ifs, ands, or buts. Don't leave them for the end. I'm supposed to go with kind of like a Christmas theme with my colors, so I'm using Blossom. I believe this one is Cranberry, Grass, and then Kale. For this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to make one of the granny squares in this blossom color. First thing that we need to do is make a slip knot. And you want to have a decent sized tail to go with that so that when you weave in that end after it's all said and done around here, it's not like the worst experience of your life. So leave a decent sized tail. Insert your hook to get that on there. And we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3. What's it stuck on? 4. Okay. You're going to insert your hook into the very first chain that we made, yarn over, and then pull through that loop on your hook. And that's going to create a little circle for us. So you want to make sure you're going into this spot and not that spot. So pull that over and this will be your center point. I like to kind of honestly just keep my finger in there and then it kind of helps. So let's chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This is going to count as one of our double crochet stitches. We are going to put 2 more double crochet stitches into the center. So here's 1 and 2. Make sure you're working around this end as well because it kind of helps to pre-weave it in as well. Now we're going to chain 2, and this is going to help us make our first corner. Then we're going to put 3 more double crochets into the center. So 1, 2, 3. Oops, sorry. So we've got a cluster of 3, a chain 2, and another cluster of 3. We're just going to repeat that until we get back around to the beginning. So we're going to chain 2. And we're going to put 3 double crochet into the center. 1, 2, and 3. Now we've got 3 clusters. We're going to chain 2, create another corner, and we're going to put 3 more double crochet into the center. So 1, 2, oops, sorry guys, I keep hitting my stand here. 3, move my hand to the other side. Okay, so we've got 4 clusters, 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 3 corners so far, 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 2. And then we're going to insert our hook into the third chain of this chain 3, so the very top one. So insert your hook, yarn over, and then pull your yarn through the loop that's on your hook right now, and that's going to close that up. That completes our first round. Next thing that we need to do is chain 3, and that's going to take us to our second round. For this round, we're going to put our double crochet into this corner here. So let's go ahead and do that. 1 double crochet, and we're going to put another one in there so that we get 3 in total, because that chain counts as one of our stitches. So we would have technically 1, 2, 3. Now when we're working over a cluster, we only need to chain 1. So we're going to do that. Chain 1, and we're going to put 3 double crochets into this corner here. 1, 2, and 3. Now to keep this as a corner, we're going to chain another 2, 1, 2, and we're going to put 3 more double crochet into the same corner. So we're going to do 1, 2, whoops, 1, 2, and then 3. And that creates our corner for us. So we have 6 double crochet in there in total, and then separated by a chain 2. Working over a cluster again, so we're just going to chain 1. And we're going to do the same thing in this corner that we did here. So let's put 3 double crochet to start. 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to put another 3 double crochet into the same corner. So 1, 2, 3. And that completes that second corner for us. Working over this cluster, let's do a chain, and we're going to do the same thing here. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and another 3 double crochet into the same corner. So 1, 2, 3. We're working over this cluster, so we're going to chain 1, and into this next corner here we're going to put 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. And to finish this corner off, we're going to chain 2, and we're going to find the top stitch of that starting chain 3, so right here. Insert your hook, yarn over, and pull it through the loop on your hook right now to finish that off. All right, this part is super important. Let's cut our yarn end right now. Just pull it through the loop. You're going to grab that darning needle and you're going to weave in your end right now, because trust me, once you've made like 50 of these squares, you're not going to want to go back and weave in your ends, and it's not even that hard. I always just insert my hook into this spot here, pull it back, flip it over. I work into this back kind of loop here, pull it through, and then I go underneath this cluster of stitches, pull it through, turn that around, and then I just come back through all of these clusters. Sometimes I even kind of poke through like the middle of it if I can. Pull that through, cut my end off there. For this center tail, pull it tight so it really closes. Let's get that end onto our darning needle. And this one I like because you just have to go around these center stitches all on the back side of your work. And I kind of weave until like there's no way I can get my needle into the stitch without the yarn kind of falling off of it on the end. So usually one time around is okay though. Like that's good enough for me. I'm just gonna clip that tail off. Maybe snip this one just a little bit more. And there you go. You can now start blocking your squares if you'd like. I personally don't, because I'm going to be adding another row for the border. So I'm going to show you guys that. We're going to do the border, and then I'm going to show you how we join as you go, because there's no way I'm sewing all my squares together. I'm using this fisherman color to create the border of my squares. This is kind of what it looks like as you join as you go. So I'm still going to be adding a border to the outside, which will kind of pull these out a little bit, but I prefer this to sewing. I don't hate the look of it, and it's honestly pretty easy to do. I'm going to show you guys how to do that, and hopefully this is your preferred method as well. So let's put this onto the side. In order to start the join as you go method, we need to fully do a border around one square. So we'll start with that, and then we'll go over how to join to an existing square. Okay, I always start mine with a slip knot, and I put that on my hook. I join that to any corner I like. In my square, I typically try to choose one that doesn't have the chain already in it, just to kind of balance it out a little bit more. So I'm going to secure my slip knot on there. You can use whichever way you like. And I'm going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm essentially doing the exact same thing that I did in round 2 here, but we will be working an extra cluster into a middle row like we didn't do here. Last time we only did corner stitches. So let's build out our first corner first. We're going to put 2 double crochet into there. 1, 2, and then working over a cluster, we need to chain 1, and we're going to go into this cluster here. So we're going to do 3, 1, whoops, 2, 3,
chain 1 because we've got a cluster here, and then we're going to put 3 double crochet into the next corner. So 1, 2, 3, just like this. And of course, like any corner, we're going to chain, but this time we're going to chain 3. So you're going to do 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to put our 3 double crochet into the center there. And the reason that I do 3 on this border round, is so that when we join, it makes it a little bit easier and it doesn't get as cramped. So working over a cluster, we're going to chain 1, 3 into the next space, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and let's put our 3 into the corner, 1, 2, 3. Again, in a corner, we're going to chain 3 this time, so 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work 3 double crochet into the same corner. Whoops, where are all my stitches going? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Just gonna grab some more yarn. Okay, let's chain 1 to get to our next space, and we're going to do 3 into the next chain space. So 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and working into that corner, we're going to do our 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, chain 3 to complete our corner. 1, 2, 3, and another 3 inside of there to finish it off. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, 3 into the next chain space. 1, 2, 3. I'm doing my best to keep this on center, you guys, but bear with me. So this is what we're looking like. Let's do another chain 1, and we're going to put 3 into this space here. 1, 2, 3, and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Join to the top of your chain 3 that started this round. Pull it through to secure it, and then we are going to cut the yarn on that one. And we're going to weave in that end. So go ahead and weave in your end and then come back. So this border round is completely finished on this square. This will be our starting point. We're just going to kind of leave them over to the side. I'm just going to get some yarn ready for the next one. And because I want this color to go next to that one, I'm going to create a slip knot again, and I'm going to start the first part of my next square's border. So slip knot, attach that to your square in any fashion that you like. You're going to chain 3 and do your 2 double crochet inside of that first corner, just like we normally would. Okay, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to put 3 into the next space. 1, 2, 3. Chain 1, and we're going to put 3 into the next corner. Okay, so this is where we're going to kind of stop. So to begin joining, the first thing that we want to do is chain 1, and that's going to create one portion of our corner here. And I'm going to join it, to this corner here. So what I have to do, I'm going to bring my yarn this way, and I'm going to pick up this square here. I'm going to insert my hook there, and I'm going to wrap the yarn around my hook, pull it into the center of that corner, and pull it into the loop that was already on my hook. that's gonna make 2 chains for me. So the one that I did initially, and then from my join that creates another chain, and then I'm gonna chain 1 to make my 3rd chain. And then I'm just gonna orient this so that I can work back against here, and I'm gonna put the 3 double crochets that I need to finish off the corner on my red square. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's just pull some more yarn. So now what we're gonna do is continue working down the square this way to get it joined. So our corner is joined here. We're gonna do the same thing into this space here. Try to get to focus. So you're going to insert your hook into there. I like to try to help the yarn wrap it around and pull through. No chaining that time, right? Because when we create the join, that will kind of essentially be the chain that we would have been doing if we were making a normal border. So again, just insert your hook, grab the yarn and pick it up, slip through, and you're joined to that space there, and you're going to just continue into your red one, making your 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. And that will join that part for us. We're going to do the same thing into this space here. Insert your hook, pull up that loop, pull through the loop already on your hook, and you're ready to just put your double crochets into the next corner. So that means we're going to do our 3. And now we're going to join to the next corner here. So again, we're going to chain 1 because that's going to make one of the 3 that we need to build a corner. We're going to insert our hook, pick up the yarn, pull it through the loop that's already on our hook, chain 1. So now we've done 3, and we're just going to continue on with our corner, putting 3 double crochet into that space. And now we can continue as normal to finish off this border here. So your chain 1, oops, 3 double crochet into the next space, chain 1, 3 double crochet into our next corner, chain 3, whoops, 1, 2, 3, and add another 3 into your corner, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, going into the next chain space, 1, 2, 3 double crochet, and then chain 1, and let's finish off our final corner by doing our 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to chain 3, and then we join to the top of this starting chain 3, you can obviously cut your yarn and then weave in those ends there left from that one, and this is what we're going to be left with. Our squares joined here, so you can see you have a little bit of a gap in between, which is totally normal, and you'll have those joins, and you're going to continue to join in that manner. So when you grab another square to join, just start in your corner here, do your 3 and chain, 3 and chain, and then get into your corner and just do that first section of it, chain 1, and then start joining. You can follow that along. The manner in which I join my squares is I start on what is going to be the left hand side of my blanket, and then I keep adding to it and working this way to keep, like, now I'm going to add to this one, and then this one's going to add to that one, and I build that way. And then once I've got my row all the way across, then I go back to this side and I start here again, and then I work that way, and it just seems to be the best way to go. Okay, I will show you guys what it looks like when you're joining and you have 2 corners to join to. So I've already gone ahead and started the first kind of line of this square, and all your squares should start like this. So I've done my 3 clusters, chain, 3 clusters, chain, 3 clusters. Let's do a chain to begin this. I'm going to join to this outer corner first. So inserting my hook into there, pulling up the loop, and pulling through the loop that's already on my hook, and then chaining 1. I'm going to continue to finish off this corner. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, instead of chaining like I normally would, I'm just going to insert into here, pull up the loop, and then pull through the loop on my hook and work my way across, just as you would working down the side of it for the other joins. And again to the next space. Okay, now I'm into that chain. This is kind of where I change things a little bit. I'm gonna go into this first space, pull up that yarn, pull through. That's 1 chain technically. Go into the second spot there, pull through, and then go into your 3rd spot, which is a little bit trickier to do. And then that's just going to join me to all 3 of these existing squares. So I'm going to rotate this a little bit, get my working yarn over here, and I'm just going to finish off by doing my 3 into that corner. And you can kind of see, it's not like the prettiest join in the world, but it's all joined and there's no gap in the middle, which is what I like. So then I'm just going to continue as I normally would. I want to work into that space to get it joined. Oops, let me move my arm so I don't bump that. And then finish off my double crochets here. Working into this space here, pull up that yarn, and work into my last kind of corner here that I have to join. Doing my 3, and then because I'm only joining to 1 square here, I'm just going to do the regular joining method where I chain 1, work into the square corner, and then chain 1 again so I can turn everything. Get all this stuff out of the way. And then just continue how we finish off all of the other squares. Oops. Okay, so I just finished off that last row there, joined to the top of this chain 3, woven my ends, and that's basically how you're going to join all of the squares as you go. So have fun, zone out, do that, join in whichever order you would like, and then I will see you once all of your squares are joined, and we'll go over how to add a border to really finish this piece off. This is the best way I can show you guys my entire blanket because I'm working in a really small space. So my blanket is 9 squares wide and 9 squares long. So this actually makes a perfect square. And you can kind of see I've got my pattern here of my red and pink and then my green squares. And I did those in those little chunks, those color chunks. So this will be all laid out in the pattern for you, how I chose to go about laying out my colors, but you can do any color order that you prefer. This is just what it will be looking like when all of your squares are joined up. So now that everything is joined how I like it, it's time to go on to the border. So we're going to do 2 rounds for our border here. The first round of this border is just going to be single crochet stitches in order to add the perfect amount of stitches to do the next round of the border, which would be a scallop row. So we need to have this worked in multiples of 4, which is really important, and the written pattern is a little bit confusing, but let's go ahead and start. join your yarn however you prefer to join it. I like to start with a slip knot, and you're going to find one corner of your work. Doesn't matter which one, you can start in any corner, and you're just going to join your yarn to begin working. Chain one, and then we're going to put 2 single crochet into that first corner space. And we want to put, try to move this more to the center, 1 single crochet into each stitch, 1 single crochet into each of these chain spaces. But then when we get to this side of your granny square and corner, we're actually going to put 2 into here. So along the edge, we need to have 125 stitches, but there's not going to be perfect spacing for 125 stitches. So I think we need to add 2 stitches into one of these granny square corners. So if you follow along with this, it will make sense as we go along. So I've got my 2 in my corner, and I'm just going to go and count from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oops, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then now that I'm in this corner of my granny square, I'm going to put 2, so 12 and 13, and just to balance this out, actually, let's get rid of one of our extra stitches that we need to do right now. So we're going to put 2 into this one. So we're going to go into this corner, and we're going to do 2 stitches into that old corner here. And be careful not to skip that first space in there. And we're going to add 1 in there too. And then we're just going to crochet along until we reach the corner of our next square here. So let's keep single crocheting in each stitch in each space until we reach the next corner. And again, we're going to put 2 into the space, the end of that square. I'm only going to put 1 into the next square's corner. And then I'm going to put 1 in each space again. Each stitch and then each chain space until, of course, we reach the corner of the granny square. And 2 in this corner space, and then 1 in the next corner space. So continue down your border like normal. So where you're going to put 1 in this corner space, and then 1 in every single stitch and chain space. And then when you get to the corner on the left hand side, you're going to put 2 inside of there. And you're going to do that until you have only these 2 granny squares left. So once you've worked your 2 into this space here, we'll continue from that spot. And I'll come back and show you that. Okay, so I've made it to these final 2 squares here. I'm going to put my 2 single crochet into this corner piece of this square. And I need to add 1 more increased part into this corner. So I'm going to put 2 into this one. And then continue putting a single crochet into, sorry, that's really high up on the screen, I'm just seeing. So continue putting 1 single crochet into each stitch in the little chain space there until we reach the last stitch. Oops. So 1, 2, 3. So that gives us 125 all the way down along our edge. and we're going to do 3 single crochet into our corner stitch, our corner space, and then we can rotate our work and begin working along the next edge. And we're going to do the exact same thing where we need to fit those 125 stitches along our work. So making sure we always put 2 on the left hand side of the corner of that one square all the way along, and then picking, I would just go with the second square that you come across to do that square's right hand corner. That we'll put 2 in there, and then on the very last one, like I showed you over here, that one can get the increase there too. So as long as you somehow figure out how to get your 125, because you will be 2 spaces short, you're just going to have to pick one of these to do an extra stitch in 2 times. So if you want to do an extra stitch here and then an extra stitch here and then just keep working through, that'll be fine. And once you've made your way all the way around, we'll move on to the next part. So I'll finish my first round of my border and then I'll come back and we'll go over the next part. At this point, I have completed working my way around the blanket and I've made it back to my final corner here. So again, we only have those 2 single crochets in there to start. So I'm going to place what's going to be my 3rd single crochet in there. So put 1 in there. We're going to skip over the chain that we've made when we joined the yarn, and I'm going to slip stitch into that very first single crochet. And that's going to land me perfectly in the middle of my 3 single crochets here. And now we can start the next round of the border. So to begin, we need to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And this chain 3 will count as a double crochet stitch. Now we're going to work back into that same space there, and we're going to add 4 more double crochet stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to create the first shell. So what we do next is we skip 1 stitch and we slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we skip 1 stitch and we're going to do 5 double crochets into the next stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to continue doing that all the way along the edge. I'm just going to rotate my work a little bit here. So after you do your shells, skip, slip, skip, and double crochet into the next one. We're going to do the 5 double crochets in there. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're just going to repeat that all the way along. So I'll work a little bit along here and then I'll show you guys kind of what to do when we get to our next corner. Here I've made it to the end of my very first edge of this blanket. I finished my last shell that I can fit along here. So to finish that off, I'm going to skip 1. Let's slip into the next stitch, skip 1 stitch, and then that's going to land us into the middle stitch of our corner, which is exactly what we want. And we're going to put our 5 double crochets into that spot. And then we are good to rotate our work and continue doing the exact same thing along the next edge. So skipping 1 stitch, slipping into the next one, skipping the next one, and adding our 5 double crochet into the next one to create our shell. Why is my yarn slipping out? 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we're just going to continue all the way around our blanket until we reach the very last corner. So I will meet you guys at the very last corner. Once you have all of your shells all along the edge of your border there, we will be ready to close off that round. So I've got my last shell here. I'm going to skip the next stitch, slip into the next one after that. We're going to ignore the next stitch, and then we're just going to join to the top of the chain 3. That started our very first shell. So insert your hook and slip into there. Cut your yarn, leaving a decent sized tail for weaving in. Weave in that end, and then your blanket is all done.
I hope you guys love it. It's super heavy if you make the same size as mine, but I love it. I love that you can use scraps for this if you have like leftover woolly scraps. I've done that in another version. I'll put that one here. Just customizing whatever colors. So yeah, I hope you guys found this tutorial helpful, as I always say. And if you make something from this, I'd love to see it. So again, tag me on social media, wherever you post, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I'd love to see and share your work. And you can purchase this pattern in my Etsy store. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.